The cost no one counts. Time lost in waiting. There is a thief that visits every man, regardless of how rich or poor he is. This thief doesn't break into homes or steal gold under moonlight. It doesn't carry weapons or speak threats. It simply waits. And it whispers, "Not now. Maybe later. You're not ready yet." And with those few gentle words, it steals what no amount of gold can buy back: time, opportunity, the future. In the ancient city of Babylon, where wealth was measured in silver and wisdom was carried in scrolls, there was a saying that echoed in the stone corridors of the market: "Opportunity is a haughty goddess who wastes no time with those who are unprepared." This wasn't just poetic wisdom, it was survival advice. Because those who hesitated missed the caravan. Those who delayed missed the deal. And those who waited for the perfect time never found it. Because perfect was always tomorrow. And tomorrow never arrived. Today, the setting has changed. There are no caravans, no scrolls. But the delay remains. Worse yet, it's now disguised as planning, research, staying safe, or waiting for the right moment. We live in an era where people can spend years thinking about investing, reading about success, studying strategies, yet never take the first step. They believe they are being cautious, but in truth, they are being robbed. Every month they wait to invest is a month their money doesn't grow. Every year they delay starting a business is a year someone else captures the market. Every time they say, "I'll start next week," is a seed that never meets the soil. Here's the hard truth. Excuses have interest rates. And just like unpaid debt, the cost grows over time. The man who says, "I'll start next year," is not standing still. He is moving backwards. Because inflation doesn't wait. Markets don't wait. Opportunities don't wait. And most of all, life doesn't wait. This is not a message for the impatient. This is not about chasing get-rich-quick schemes. This is a call to awaken those who've been lulled to sleep by the illusion of tomorrow. In this video, we will expose the silent cost of delay. We will examine step by step how every excuse, no matter how small, creates a compound effect that drains your future. We will look at the wisdom of the Babylonians, the principles that build empires, and how they still apply to your bank account, your investments, your career, and your life today. If you've ever said, "I just need a bit more time. I'll wait until the economy is better. Maybe next year I'll finally get serious," then this is for you. Because the longer you wait, the heavier the price becomes. And make no mistake, delay is not harmless. Delay is expensive.
The cost of inaction is never zero. Let me ask you something simple. When you do nothing, what do you think you're choosing? Most people believe that waiting is safe, that standing still costs nothing, that saying maybe later is a harmless decision. But it's not. Because the truth is, every time you delay, you're paying a price. You just don't see the invoice, not right away. In the world of money, nothing stands still. If your dollars aren't working for you, they're silently working against you. Inflation doesn't wait. Opportunities don't wait. Your skills don't freeze in time, they fade. Your future doesn't pause. It moves on without you. You think you're playing it safe, but what you're really doing is falling behind. Let me tell you an old story from ancient Babylon. There was a potter named Eshin. He was brilliant. His vases were flawless. But he was too cautious. One day, wealthy merchants came with an urgent request. They needed dozens of amphora to transport oil. They offered great silver. But, Eshin said, Let's wait. The river might flood, the clay might crack. Next month, maybe. His neighbor, Kidan, accepted the deal. He worked through the night, he delivered, he got paid. The flood? It never came. And Eshin? He kept waiting until the flood finally did arrive, and it destroyed his unsold pottery. That's what delay does. It doesn't protect you. It just steals from you, slowly, and leaves you empty when it's too late. Let's bring this to today. Meet Daniel. He's 30, a software engineer, earning $95,000 a year. He wanted to invest, but never felt ready. In 2019, he said, the market's too high. In 2020, COVID makes things too uncertain. In 2021, it already rebounded too fast. 2022, maybe there's a recession coming. 2023, interest rates are rising. 2024, let's wait for the election. And now, it's 2025. Daniel is still in the same job, still just thinking about it. If he had started in 2019, just $800 a month, he'd already have over $70,000. But because he waited, he's starting at zero. Same salary, but 6 years older and 6 years behind. Here's something that's even more shocking. Two brothers, same savings, $5,000 a year. One starts at 25 and stops at 35. The other starts at 35 and saves all the way to 65. Guess who ends up with more money? Not the one who saved longer, the one who started earlier, because time is the multiplier and delay is the killer. Let's talk about the 4 big lies we tell ourselves. Lie number 1, I need more information. No, you need to start. Clarity comes from action, not perfection. Lie number 2, I'll begin when I make more money. Truth is, if you can't save $100, you won't save $1,000 either. Lie number 3, I'll wait for the right timing. Markets don't ring a bell. You'll miss the boat trying to time the waves. Lie number 4, I'm being smart by waiting. No, you're being scared, and fear has a high interest rate. So what can you do? Here are 3 Babylonian-inspired moves you can make today. First, pay yourself first. Set up automatic savings. Even 10% is enough to start momentum. Second, set a deadline. Write this down. By the 1st of next month, I will invest X dollars into Y. Make it real. Third, get accountability. The Babylonians met weekly to share profits and losses. You need someone in your life who keeps you honest. Now pause for a moment. Think back over the last 2 years. How many chances did you hesitate on? A new job, a course, a business idea, an investment, a connection? Now ask yourself, what did it cost me to delay? Not just in money, but in confidence, in momentum, in growth? Because every delay has a price. And most of the time, it's your future that pays it. The ancient Babylonians had a saying, opportunity is a haughty goddess. She will not wait for those who hesitate. And neither will your life.
The enemy within. Fear disguised as wisdom. Let's be honest. It's not the economy that's stopping you. It's not the market. It's not the timing. It's fear. Fear dressed in a very expensive suit. Fear pretending to be logic. We say, I just want to be cautious. But what we mean is, I'm scared I'll get it wrong. We say, I'm doing more research. But what we're doing is hiding behind analysis, so we never have to take responsibility for action. This is the enemy within. Fear wearing the mask of wisdom. It's sneaky. It speaks in your voice. It sounds smart, it sounds reasonable, but it has one goal: to keep you safe. And in trying to keep you safe, it keeps you small. Because fear doesn't care about your potential, it only cares about your comfort zone. Let's break this down. There are 3 forms of fear that disguise themselves as wisdom when it comes to money. Bauwegel. 1. The fear of loss disguised as, let me wait for a better time. You tell yourself, now isn't the right time. I don't want to lose money. But what you don't realize is, while you're waiting to not lose, you're already losing. Inflation is eating your cash. Time is erasing your compounding, and someone else is stepping into the opportunity you just walked past. Playing not to lose is still playing to lose. Bywiggle, the fear of judgment, disguised as, I want to be responsible. You don't want to look foolish. You don't want your family or friends to say, that was a bad decision, so you call it prudence. You say, I'm being responsible. But being responsible doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing something with intention. Responsibility without risk is just paralysis in disguise. You're not being responsible. You're being afraid of being wrong. And that fear costs more than any bad investment ever could. Bawiggle, the fear of effort, disguised as, I'm not ready. I need to know more. I'll start when I have everything figured out. But here's the truth. Nobody ever feels ready. Nobody ever knows everything before they begin. And waiting for perfect understanding is a decision to never start. Learning is not a requirement for starting. Starting is a requirement for learning. In Babylon, there was a saying, gold flees the man who invests it without wisdom, but gold ignores the man who never dares to invest it at all. Fear doesn't just stop you from failing. It stops you from winning. It stops you from growing. It stops you from becoming the kind of person who could have built wealth. Let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine 2 doors. One door says action, risk, growth. The other door says safety, thinking, delay. Most people choose the second one because it feels easier, more rational, less scary. But what's behind that second door? Stagnation, regret, wasted time. What's behind the first door? Yes, some mistakes, but also experience, confidence, momentum, and wealth. The path to wealth is not paved with perfect plans. It's paved with courageous action despite uncertainty. So, how do you fight this enemy within? You don't wait for fear to disappear. You act anyway. You train your mind to move through fear, not around it. You say, yes, I'm nervous, but I move forward anyway. Because the people who build wealth aren't fearless, they're just disciplined enough to act even when afraid. Here's a Babylonian principle worth tattooing on your heart. He who hesitates for fear of the storm may never leave the harbor, but no ship was built to rot at anchor. You were not made to sit still. You were made to build, to move, to grow. Target. In the next part, we'll dive into the real cost of playing it safe, why hiding behind security is often the fastest road to scarcity. But before we go there, remember this. Fear isn't always loud. Sometimes it speaks in a soft, logical voice and tells you to wait. Don't listen.
The illusion of safety. How playing it safe becomes the most dangerous game. Everyone wants to feel safe. That's normal. It's human. But in the world of money, safe is a word that wears a clever disguise. Because what most people call safety is actually slow, invisible loss. Let me explain. Keeping your money in a savings account feels safe, but inflation is draining its value every single day. Staying in the same job for 20 years feels stable, but your skills may be aging while the world moves forward. Waiting for the right time to invest feels responsible,
But opportunity doesn't wait. You see, safety is only safe for a moment, and then it becomes a prison, a trap made of comfort, lined with soft excuses, locked by fear. Let's go back to Babylon. There was once a man named Arok, a scribe. For decades, he copied scrolls for merchants and nobles. He lived modestly, always saved his coins, never borrowed, never risked. He believed in safety. He trusted the palace treasury more than any investment. But when war came and Babylon's economy shifted, his skills were no longer in demand. Scrolls were now copied faster by new methods. Arok, who thought he was safe, was now outdated, alone, and poor. Because the world had changed, but he hadn't. That's what happens when you build your life around avoiding risk. You avoid growth too. And in doing so, you create a new kind of danger. The danger of being left behind. Let's bring that to today. Think about people who saved their whole lives, yet couldn't retire comfortably. Think about the person who stayed in one job, one role, one city, and suddenly finds themselves unprepared for change. Think about the entrepreneur who waited for the perfect idea and watched others launch, fail, learn, and succeed while they were still planning. They weren't reckless. They were just too careful for too long. Here's a brutal truth. Comfort is addictive. And once you become addicted to comfort, you start mistaking it for security. But real security doesn't come from avoiding risk. It comes from learning how to manage it, how to grow through it, how to build strength in uncertain conditions. Because wealth is not built in silence and safety, it is built in motion and decision. Now, let's talk about what playing it safe actually costs you. Lost time. While you wait and see, years pass. Compounding slows. The window narrows. Lost confidence. Every time you delay, you send a signal to your brain. I'm not capable. And over time, that voice becomes your identity. Lost opportunity. The longer you stay safe, the more chances pass by. And opportunities once gone rarely knock again. There's a Babylonian phrase that says, "The man who locks his gold in the vault and hides from the world wakes one day to find both the world and his gold gone." Because safety is not about hiding. It's about preparing. It's about taking small risks early so you don't face big consequences later. So what's the better approach? Not gambling, not blind risk, but smart exposure. Put small amounts to work. Try small ideas. Test, learn, adjust. Because the man who takes controlled action will always be further ahead than the man who waits for the stars to align. Let's pause here for a reflection. Ask yourself, where in your life are you confusing comfort with progress? What safe decision have you made that's actually holding you back? And what one small risk could move you forward today? Write it down. Say it out loud, and make it real. In Part 4, we'll talk about the hidden debt of hesitation, how every delay creates an invisible bill that your future self will have to pay in full. But for now, remember this: playing it safe is only safe until it's not. And by the time you realize that, the game has already changed.
There's a kind of debt no bank will ever list. No collector will ever call about it. You'll never see it on a credit report. But it's there. and it's growing. It's called the debt of hesitation. Every time you say, "I'll start next month. I'm still thinking about it. Maybe later when things are more stable," you're borrowing from your future. You're pushing the cost forward to a version of you that will one day wake up, older, busier, and with less time left to fix it. We've been taught to fear financial debt, credit cards, loans, interest payments, but we rarely talk about the other kind, the compound cost of not deciding. Because while you wait, the clock keeps ticking, and what you could have built is slowly slipping out of reach. Let me give you an example. Imagine two people, both 28 years old. Both make the same income. Both say they want to invest. Person A starts immediately, just $500 a month, consistently. Person B says, "Let me figure things out first." 5 years go by. Person B finally starts. Same amount, same investment. But by the time they both reach age 60, person A has nearly twice the wealth. Why? Not because they saved more, not because they were smarter, but because they didn't hesitate. Now here's the scary part. The person who hesitated, they didn't feel the pain right away. In fact, they probably felt smart. They avoided risk. They waited to learn more. But all the while, an invisible debt was growing behind them. A debt paid in lost time, lost compound growth, lost confidence. And by the time they realized it, it was too late to catch up. Here's a Babylonian principle worth remembering. A coin unspent can be saved, but a day unused is gone forever. You can recover money. You can recover knowledge, but you can never recover time. And hesitation steals time in disguise. Let's talk about what this hidden debt looks like in real life. The job you didn't apply for. Now, someone else holds the position, and your income? Still the same. The side hustle you kept researching. Now the market's saturated. The window is closed. The investment you almost made has already doubled in value for someone else. But the worst part isn't the money. It's the self-trust you erode. Every time you hesitate, you teach your brain, "I'm the kind of person who doesn't act." And that belief will bleed into every area of your life. So what can you do? Start by facing this question honestly. Where in my life am I paying hidden interest for decisions I keep delaying? Write it down. Name it. Then take one small step today, even if it's imperfect, even if it's scary. Because the cost of action may be effort, but the cost of delay is regret. Let's end this part with a Babylonian-style reminder. The man who waits until all winds are fair will never leave the harbor, and he will never return with gold. Don't wait for perfect winds. Set sail now while you still have time to course correct. In Part 5, we'll uncover the power of early seeds, why wealth belongs to the one who begins, a lesson in compounding, timing, and why the first step, however small, always outweighs the 10th step that never happens. But for now, take this truth with you. Every hesitation is a loan, and someday soon, your future self will come knocking, asking you to pay it back. The power of early seeds, why wealth belongs to the one who begins. In every ancient marketplace of Babylon,
There was a simple truth every merchant knew. The man who plants first reaps first. It wasn't just a farming proverb, it was a financial law. Because in money, the early seed always wins. Let's talk about compounding, the eighth wonder of the world, the invisible force behind every real fortune. But here's the thing people forget. Compounding doesn't reward size, it rewards time. And only those who begin early truly receive its full power. Let me show you. Take two people, Anna and Ben. Anna starts saving $500 a month at age 22. She does it for just 10 years, then stops. Ben waits until 32 to begin and saves $500 a month for 30 years. Guess what? At age 62, Anna has more money than Ben. Why? Because Anna's seeds had more time to grow, even though she watered them for far fewer years. That's the power of early. But here's where most people go wrong. They say, I don't have enough money to start. It won't make a difference. What's the point of $100 a month? Let me be very clear. It's not about the amount, it's about the habit. It's about momentum. It's about signaling to yourself, I am the kind of person who builds. Because someone who starts with $100 today will be more prepared to handle $10,000 tomorrow, while the person who waits for a big amount never builds the muscles to manage it. Let me tell you a story from Babylon. There was a young man named Namtar. He worked in the gardens of a wealthy merchant. Each day he earned only 2 silver coins. But instead of spending both, he saved one. And each week he took that coin to a moneylender who showed him how to invest. Years passed. By the time Namtar turned 40, he no longer worked the garden. He owned it. The land, the laborers, the water rights, all his. People called him lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. He simply started when others waited. That's the lesson. Wealth does not favor the biggest risk taker. It favors the earliest planter. Because a tree that starts growing today has 20 years to bear fruit. A tree you never plant will never feed your future. Here's what you need to remember. Early action beats perfect action. Starting messy is better than waiting for clarity. Consistency multiplies over time. A small, repeated habit compounds faster than a rare, heroic effort. You don't need a lot. You need a start. A single drop of water won't grow a garden, but it tells the earth rain is coming. So ask yourself, what seed can I plant today? Is it a small investment account? Is it finally opening that business page? Is it learning one money skill? Just one. Whatever it is, don't underestimate it, because the seeds you plant today create the shade you'll sit under tomorrow. And if you're thinking, but I'm already behind, let me tell you this. The second best time to plant a tree is now. Yes, starting at 22 is better than starting at 32, but starting at 32 is still infinitely better than 42. And 42 is better than 52. Because time may be short, but the game's not over, and your future is still listening, still waiting. Part 6 will explore why waiting for motivation will leave you broke. A powerful breakdown of why discipline, not feelings, is the backbone of long-term wealth. But for now, remember this. You don't need a fortune to begin. You just need the courage to plant and the patience to stay. Why waiting for motivation will leave you broke. Here's a harsh truth most people won't tell you. Motivation is unreliable. It's emotional, fleeting, inconsistent. It comes when life is easy and disappears the moment things get hard. If you're building your financial life on motivation, you're building a house on sand. Let's be honest. You feel motivated when you watch a video about wealth. You hear someone's success story. You imagine your dream future. But motivation fades. Monday comes, bills show up. And suddenly, that energy you felt yesterday, gone. And so is the action you could have taken. Now, here's the truth that separates the rich from the stuck. The wealthy don't wait to feel like doing it. They do it because it's who they are. They don't wake up every day inspired. They wake up committed. They've trained their minds to move, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is clapping. That's not motivation. That's discipline. Let's go back to Babylon. There was once a man named Adaru. He wasn't the smartest. He didn't come from wealth. But every morning before sunrise, he hauled bricks. And every evening, he recorded his coins. Rain or drought, sickness or health. He showed up, he saved, he invested. While others waited for the perfect plan, Adaru built a future brick by brick. No fanfare, no lightning bolt inspiration. Just discipline. Day in, day out. Years later, people called him lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. His fortune was made of repetition. That's what most people miss. They think wealth is about big moments, big inspiration, big ideas. But in reality, wealth is the result of small decisions repeated without applause. It's choosing to invest even when you feel tired. It's reading one more page even when no one sees you. It's saying no to impulse and yes to the long term, again and again. Here's the truth. Motivation is a mood. Discipline is a decision. Motivation is what you feel. Discipline is what you do, regardless of how you feel. If you want lasting wealth, you can't depend on emotion. You have to build systems that make action automatic. Let me make this practical. Here are 3 ways to build financial discipline that outlives motivation. Number 1, automate everything. Auto-transfer a percentage of your income into investments the moment you get paid. Remove choice. Let the system carry the weight. Number 2, create rituals, not goals. A goal is, I want $100,000. A ritual is, every Sunday night, I review my finances for 15 minutes. Rituals build rhythm. Goals build pressure. Number 3, track streaks, not perfection. Don't aim to be perfect. Aim to be consistent. Build a streak, daily, weekly, monthly. Because momentum doesn't come from intensity. It comes from repetition. And if you're thinking, but I'm not a disciplined person, let me tell you this. No one is. Discipline is a skill. It's trained like a muscle. Every time you act without motivation, you get stronger, more confident, more in control. Here's a Babylonian truth to end with. The man who waits for the sun to rise before lifting his tools builds nothing before night falls. In other words, don't wait to feel ready. Start while it's dark. Build while it's quiet. And soon, the light will catch up to you. In Part 7, we'll talk about the high cost of cheap comfort. How small pleasures today can become the greatest obstacle to your future wealth. But for now, remember this. Motivation will betray you. Discipline will build you. And your future depends on which one you choose.
The high cost of cheap comfort. Not all danger comes from big, obvious mistakes. Some of the most expensive decisions come disguised as small daily pleasures. A $6 coffee, another streaming subscription, the latest phone you didn't need, one more night of saying, I deserve to treat myself. Individually, they seem harmless, but over time, they become the silent destroyers of wealth. Let's be clear, this isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. Because comfort, real, meaningful comfort, comes from stability, from freedom, from choice.
But what most people chase today isn't freedom, it's relief, short-term escape from long-term pressure. And they pay for it daily, without ever checking the receipt. Let's look at the numbers. If you spend just $15 a day on unnecessary comforts, that's $450 a month, over $5,000 a year. Now imagine if you had invested that money, earning 8% per year. In 20 years, that's nearly $250,000. $250,000 spent on things you barely remember, things that gave you moments of pleasure and decades of regret. In ancient Babylon, people didn't have Netflix or lattes, but they had the same temptations: clay trinkets, exotic wines, colorful tunics, and they had a name for the man who couldn't resist comfort, the one who eats all he earns and leaves his future to hunger, because to them, consuming without purpose was the same as stealing from yourself. Now don't get it twisted. You're allowed to enjoy your life. You're allowed to celebrate. But the question is, at what cost? Are you trading long-term peace for short-term pleasure? Are you buying distractions because facing your reality feels too hard? Are you using comfort to avoid responsibility? Let me ask you, what would happen if you took 50% of what you spent on wants this month and invested it instead? Would you miss the food delivery, the 5th pair of shoes, the app you forgot to cancel? Probably not. But you know what you wouldn't forget? Waking up one day with real savings, a real portfolio, real options. Because real wealth doesn't come from earning more, it comes from leaking less. Here are 3 Babylonian-style strategies to manage comfort without destroying your future. 1. Name your luxuries. Don't call them needs if they're not. Be honest. This is a luxury. I'm choosing it. I accept the cost. 2. Create a pleasure cap. Set a clear limit, maybe 10 to 15% of income for indulgences. Enjoy within it, never beyond it. 3. Build a joy list. Find free or low-cost activities that recharge you without draining your wallet. Not all comfort has to be expensive. Because when you start managing comfort consciously, you realize something powerful. Wealth isn't about denying joy. It's about building a life where joy doesn't cost your future. Here's one last image to leave you with. Imagine your future self sitting across the table from you. They smile and say, "Thank you for saying no when it was hard. Because of that, I get to say yes now without fear." That's the reward. That's the comfort worth chasing. In Part 8, we'll go deeper into the price of no plan, why most people stay broke, not because they're lazy, but because they're winging life without a blueprint. But before we get there, remember this. You don't have to sacrifice joy. You just have to stop paying for it with your future. The price of no plan. Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're unprepared. They're not bad with money. They just never gave it direction. They wake up, they go to work, they pay bills, and they hope things will work out someday. But someday never comes because hope is not a plan. And life without a plan always ends up costing more. Let me put it plainly. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will find somewhere to disappear. In Babylon, every wealthy man had a tablet, not just for recording gold, but for recording purpose. They knew where each coin would go before they earned it, because they understood a coin with no purpose will always find waste. Now let's compare 2 types of people. The first gets paid, spends what they need, keeps what's left, if there's anything left at all. The second gets paid, immediately sets aside 10%, 20%, sometimes more, then lives on the rest by design. Guess which one builds wealth? Not the one who makes more, the one who plans more. Because income doesn't build freedom, structure does. Think about it like this. If I gave you $100,000 right now, what would you do with it? If your answer is vague, save some, invest maybe, buy something nice, then you're not ready to be rich. You're just ready to be lucky. And lucky people, without a plan, always end up where they started. Now let me tell you a story. There was a man in Babylon named Caleb. He was a merchant who sold fabrics in the lower market. For 10 years, he made decent profits, but never had more than a handful of coins to his name. Until one day, an old trader asked him, "Where does your money sleep at night?" Caleb replied, "Some here, some there. I spend as needed." The old man smiled and said, "That's why it never grows. A seed needs to be planted, not scattered." From that day on, Caleb made a plan. Every sale, every coin, every 10th piece went to his vault. He mapped out spending, investing, giving. 10 years later, he no longer sold cloth. He owned the marketplace. That's the power of planning. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it works. And it saves you from the number one destroyer of wealth, reactive living. Here are 3 Babylonian-style principles to help you escape the high cost of having no plan. Number 1, assign every dollar a job. Before you spend a single cent, decide what it's for. Use the principle 10% invest, 70% live, 10% save, 10% give. Even if your income is small, your discipline won't be. Number 2, track without emotion. Set a weekly money meeting with yourself. No judgment, just numbers. You can't manage what you don't measure. Number 3, write a personal money mission. Ask yourself, what is my money for? Security? Freedom? Impact? When your money has a mission, your spending has a filter. Let me ask you this. Would you build a house without a blueprint? Would you take a ship to sea without a map? Then why live your financial life with no direction? Because make no mistake, the price of no plan isn't just lost money. It's lost years, lost peace, lost potential. Here's a final truth from the scrolls of Babylon. The man who writes no future will be owned by the future of others. If you don't take control of your path, someone else will profit from your drift. In part 9, we'll unpack the myth of later, why someday is the most dangerous word in wealth. Because delay, disguised as logic, may be the most expensive lie you've ever believed. But for now, ask yourself, do I have a plan? Or am I just surviving and calling it living? The myth of later, why someday is the most dangerous word in wealth. There's a word that has quietly stolen more dreams than failure ever could. It sounds soft, harmless, even wise. That word is later. I'll start saving later. I'll invest when things calm down. I'll build wealth someday. But here's the truth. Someday is not a day of the week. It never arrives. It lives just far enough away to feel comfortable, and just close enough to keep you from acting today. Most people aren't lying to others. They're lying to themselves. They tell themselves they'll begin soon, when they feel ready, when life slows down, when they earn more. But later has no finish line, no deadline, no urgency. And by the time they realize it, years have vanished, opportunities have passed, and the window to start has quietly closed. Let me tell you a Babylonian parable. There once was a baker named Shuba. He wanted to open a second stall near the city gate. Every year he told himself, next season when the weather is better, next harvest when the flour is cheaper, next year when I have more help. 10 years passed, The perfect season never came, and another baker claimed the spot. Built a shop, hired workers, grew rich. Shuba still made bread, still dreamed. But his dream belonged to later, and later belonged to someone else. That's the danger of later. It sounds reasonable, but it's a thief. It steals time, momentum, and most of all, ownership. Because every time you say later, you're giving your future away, piece by piece. Let's get personal. What have you been putting off? Starting your investment account? Paying off that lingering debt? Launching that side business? Learning that new skill? How long have you been saying later? 6 months? A year? 3? Now be honest. Has anything really changed? Probably not. Because waiting doesn't create readiness. Action does. Here's a truth you won't hear often. You don't need to be ready. You just need to be willing. Willing to start small. Willing to look awkward. Willing to learn by doing. Because what later promises in comfort, it steals in progress. Let's break this down into real consequences. Every year you delay investing, you lose thousands in compound interest. Every skill you postpone learning becomes a gap someone else fills and profits from. Every month you wait to organize your money, you're making someone else rich while staying stuck. Later doesn't just keep you broke financially, it keeps you broke mentally. It trains your brain to believe you're a thinker, not a doer. So how do you break the curse of later? Let me give you 3 Babylonian-style steps. 1. Make it visible. Write down one thing you've been delaying. Put it where you see it daily. No hiding. 2. Set a today trigger. Link it to something you already do. Example: right after breakfast, I'll transfer $20 into my account. Small, simple, immediate. And 3. Shrink the first step. Don't aim to master the whole mountain. Just take the first 10 steps. That's all momentum needs. And here's something powerful to remember. The man who always waits for tomorrow eventually runs out of them. Don't live a life full of almost started goals. Start now, even imperfectly. Because wealth doesn't wait. And neither should you. In Part 10, we'll talk about the discipline dividend. How small, repeated financial decisions create a legacy far bigger than income ever could. But before we get there, pause and ask yourself, what have I been telling myself I'll do later? And what would change if I did it today?
The discipline dividend. In the world of wealth, most people chase the wrong things. They chase high salaries. They chase hot stocks. They chase once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. But the ones who actually become rich don't chase anything. They build, quietly, consistently, with discipline. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Discipline always pays a dividend. Not immediately, but inevitably. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, it won't go viral, but over time, it beats everything. The man who invests $500 a month for 25 years, through up markets, down markets, boring markets, will almost always end up wealthier than the man who made big bets, but no habits. In ancient Babylon, this was understood deeply. The most respected men weren't those who struck gold once. It was those who kept growing their gold, year after year. The scribes recorded their names. The market trusted their word. Their families inherited more than coins. They inherited principles. So what exactly is the discipline dividend? It's the reward that comes from showing up, even when you don't feel like it. Saving a portion of every paycheck, even when it's tight. Saying no to the impulse and yes to the plan. And doing it again tomorrow. And again next week. And again next year.
It's invisible at first. There's no immediate applause, no fireworks. No one claps when you invest quietly on payday. But over time, it compounds into something unshakable. Confidence, freedom, legacy. Here's the irony. Discipline feels like restriction at first, but in the long run, it becomes liberation. Because when you've built financial muscle, you're no longer afraid of emergencies. You're no longer trapped by your job. You're no longer trading your time for survival. You're free. Let's be clear. Discipline is not just about money. It's about who you're becoming. Each disciplined choice is a vote for your future self. Every time you follow through on a plan, you're building integrity, self-respect, momentum. And those things, they echo in every corner of your life. Here are 3 Babylonian principles to help you live the discipline dividend. Number 1, ritual over willpower. Don't wait to feel inspired. Build a ritual so strong, it carries you when motivation fades. Number 2, simplicity over intensity. Don't aim for giant leaps. Aim for repeatable steps. A small, consistent deposit beats a one-time windfall. Number 3, identity over outcome. Say to yourself, I am a disciplined builder of wealth. Not just, I want more money. Because when your identity changes, your behavior follows, and wealth becomes inevitable. Let me leave you with a final thought. The man who lays one brick every day will one day wake up surrounded by walls, with a roof over his head and wealth beneath his feet. Discipline is the brick, and time is the mortar. Put them together, and you build something no economy can take away. In Part 11, we'll reflect on why wealth is not the goal, but the result of who you become. A reminder that the true reward isn't just the gold, it's the person you become in pursuit of it. But before we move on, ask yourself, what small discipline can I repeat, starting today, that my future self will one day thank me for?
Why wealth is not the goal, but the result of who you become. Most people chase wealth as if it were a prize, a finish line, a number to hit. They say, once I have $1 million, I'll feel secure. Once I buy the house, I'll feel successful. Once I retire, I'll finally be free. But wealth, real wealth, doesn't work like that. Because wealth is not a destination, it's a reflection of who you are and how you live. You see, money doesn't change who you are, it reveals it and multiplies it. If you're disciplined, money gives you more options. If you're reckless, money gives you bigger mistakes. If you're generous, money becomes impact. If you're insecure, money becomes a mask. That's why the pursuit matters, not just for the result, but for the person it shapes you into along the way. In Babylon, they understood this truth deeply. They didn't admire wealth for its luxury. They admired the character it required to build it. The patience, the courage, the foresight, the restraint. A wealthy man wasn't just rich, he was respected, because his gold wasn't just in his purse, it was in his mind, his habits, his example. Let me ask you, if I gave you $10 million right now, but you lost your discipline, your patience, your clarity, would you still be wealthy? Or would you slowly drift back to where you started? Because without the right mindset, money doesn't liberate you, it confuses you, and eventually it leaves you. That's why the process matters more than the prize. Saving every month? It's not about the number, it's about proving you can control desire. Investing with patience? It's not about timing the market,
It's about building long-term thinking. Living below your means, it's not about sacrifice, it's about sovereignty. Because every financial principle is also a life principle. Here's something to remember. Wealth built on character endures. Wealth built on emotion evaporates. That's why your real goal should never just be getting rich. It should be becoming the kind of person who can handle wealth without being owned by it. The kind of person who delays gratification, makes decisions with wisdom, not impulse, builds for the long game, thinks in decades, not weekends. So what does that look like in practice? You budget because it builds clarity. You save because it builds control. You invest because it builds faith in the future. You delay comfort because it builds grit. And over time, those habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your reality. Let's return to Babylon one last time. There was a man named Etana. He inherited nothing, owned nothing, but every month he did one thing. He set aside a coin. He wrote down his plans. He showed up at the market with discipline and dignity. He built slowly, quietly, with no one watching. And by the time he was 50, he was one of the wealthiest men in the city. Not because of luck, not because of genius, but because of who he became, one small decision at a time. So let me ask you, are you chasing money, or are you building the kind of mindset that money is drawn to? Because true wealth isn't just what you earn, it's who you are when no one's watching. In the final chapter, we'll bring everything together to remind you why delay, comfort, and fear are not just bad habits, they're silent thieves of your legacy. But for now, let this sink in. The richest man isn't the one with the most gold. It's the one whose life is built on principles no crisis can shake.
Wealth is waiting, but it won't wait forever. You've heard the lessons, you've seen the patterns, you've walked the streets of ancient Babylon, and maybe you've started to see your own life more clearly. But now comes the moment that separates the few from the many, the moment of decision. Because knowledge without action is still poverty. Wisdom without discipline is still weakness. And time without intention is still loss. Wealth is waiting, but it won't wait forever. Opportunity doesn't chase anyone. It moves quickly, silently, past the doorsteps of those who keep saying, "Not yet. I need more time. Maybe next year." And it enters the homes of those who say, "Enough waiting. I begin now." Let me tell you what the rich know that the average never learn. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need more information. You don't need to feel ready. You need to decide, to act, to plant the seed, to take the first step, and then the next, and the next, until one day you look up and realize you've become the kind of person wealth was always searching for. So let's end with one last truth from Babylon. Gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to the man who saves first, spends wisely, invests carefully, and acts boldly. Let that be you. Not someday, not next year, now. Because your future is not waiting for the right moment. It's waiting for you to become the kind of person who no longer waits. This is the end of today's message, but the beginning of your decision. If this video stirred something inside you, don't let it fade. Rewatch it. Write down what you'll do next. And start building the habits that your future wealth depends on. Because in the end, the price of delay is everything. But the reward of action is freedom. This is Wealth Wisdom Daily. Thank you for listening. Now go do what most won't.
so you can live how most never will.